Hey, what's up guys, Crazy here, back into Borderlands 3 with a ton of news. It seems that there's a lot of news coming up today. Of course, we have a new patch hotfix that has nerfed a certain very powerful build for Amara, but even more important, we have some more details, including some gameplay for Moxxi's Heist DLC. This is pretty awesome. It's just been posted on the Borderlands official YouTube channel, and it's about 13 to 14 minutes of gameplay that contains quite a lot of details and quite a little bit of a glimpse over there in the new DLC. So of course this is a paid DLC that you need to either purchase or have the season pass for, but otherwise it looks pretty damn cool. So we're going to jump over everything you need to know, and if you enjoyed this video, a thumbs up on it would be super appreciated. But let's get started with Moxxi's Heist DLC, because this is of course the most important of them all, and it actually begins with a cutscene. It seems that you're going to teleport to this destination as any other destination in the game, and there's a slight little cutscene over here that begins with the video. I believe that this is part of the storyline of this DLC as well. But once you reach it, this area seems to be accessible from both high level as well as lower levels. Throughout the gameplay you can see the character having just level 23, so we can access this earlier in the game as well, not having to finish the full storyline to reach it, but probably we're gonna have to reach Sanctuary 3 so we can access the teleportation point. But otherwise, as you can see, the area is pretty big. Even the beginning over here is rather large, though later on it seems that it's rather linear. So I guess that makes sense because you need to advance from one area to another. But the first one is right here, right outside of the casino, with the huge wheel that you need to spin, and as soon as you do that, there's going to be some dialogue with Handsome Jack's hologram, and of course the first set of enemies that you're going to have to fight, the first round of enemies that spawn, which are of course the loader bots, and these seem to function pretty similarly to the ones in Borderlands 2, so they still have the crit points on their optics as well as their arms and leg joints, and you can even take down these joints. At the very least, that's what one of the loader bots made it seem. There was one loader bot at one point that missed one of the arms, and I believe that that was because the player took them off by shooting in the limbs. So it's pretty awesome. It also means that if you destroy these limbs, the bot will lose the function associated with that limb, so it means that you're going to hinder its attacks, which sounds pretty awesome. It brings a little bit more diversity in the game. As soon as you finish that, you progress into the second area of the casino. There's a huge lobby over here that seems to be controlled by a group of looters, and it's going to make sense a little bit later on because these looters seem to have taken control over the casino, since obviously it has been abandoned for quite a few years. I believe 7 years it was what Moxxi was mentioning in these cutscenes. But there's a lot of slot machines over here, and not all of them are what they seem to be. Some of them can also give out money as well as ammo upon opening, so there's quite a few of them over here. The entire casino is pretty much filled with them. Eventually the player, who in this case was playing on a Zane, manages to clear the second room and reaches the outside area, the first outside area, which is called Windfall Way. This is like one of the best scenes I've seen so far in the game. The scenery over here is absolutely stellar. You can see Handsome Jack's tower over there in the back, which is of course a main objective. You have to reach it, though the video cuts off before the character even gets close to it. But there's also a huge black hole to the left side of it, and this black hole is something that we saw in the previous trailer when we had an overview over the entire casino, which, yes, it floats in space and it looks absolutely amazing. But yeah, this is also when we start seeing a lot more clutter on the ground, a lot more graffitis, most probably from the gang that is inhabiting the casino and pretty much controlling it at this point. Is the third rail gang that you get to encounter in the subway. And speaking of the subway, this is the next area that you have to reach behind the towers. So the subway system seems pretty big. Of course, it's again a pretty linear way of reaching the tower, but you do get to encounter the third rail gang as well as their apparent leader, Third Rail, which seems to be just a badass level enemy. So it doesn't seem too complicated. I mean, even on this Zane, everything seems to be quite easy to take on, even though I believe that this isn't any mayhem mode activated gameplay at all. But yeah, it all looks pretty nice. The underground passage over here seems pretty distinct. As you progress through it, the new casino from the beginning starts shifting into this derelict place filled with clutter, with gangs destroying everything and just leaving graffitis all over the place. So yeah, there's a bit of change of scenery over here. Of course, the DLC is set to contain a lot of zones pretty distinct from one another, and we also saw a few of these in the previous trailer teaser as well. But once you take them down, down, this is when some juicy information is being shown, and I'm going to specifically to go over this flag mod over here, because this is the first item, or well, legendary item that we get a glimpse of, and it's also a new one. So this is called the Stack Bot, and whenever flag scores a critical hit, they gain increased damage until they don't score a critical hit. This effect stacks. Of course, the red text over here, if you can make God bleed, people will cease to believe in them, though there's not much information about how much can this buff over here stack, what kind of bonus do you even get, but it does look like it's pretty damn powerful. 4 points into the Hunter Eye ability and another 1 point into the Fast and the Furious in the Stalker tree, and I'm actually surprised because the Fast and the Furious is actually quite a powerful passive since it increases your gun damage and the movement speed, so I'm really curious how this synergizes with the already existing flag builds, but I'm pretty sure that this is going to be quite powerful and probably one of the best over there, depending on how those critical bonuses stack on top of your already existing critical score. So Gearbox did mention in the previous information about this DLC that there's going to be other new items being added over there as well, including other weapons, other class mods, so I'm really curious to see what these are, because we already saw another legendary drop at some point in the video, but the person playing it didn't approach it, or at the very least we didn't saw any UI indication of what it was. So it could have been a new class mod for Zane, it could have been something else, but eventually this finishes off right before the next area called the Spendopticon. So this is like the next area that we didn't get to see. Of course, we also didn't get to see Jack's Tower, but so far what I'm seeing is pretty impressive and I cannot wait to actually play this DLC. But we talked about some hotfix coming up today and we also have that, so we're going to go over some of the changes that have been applied with today's hotfix. Of course, the Bloody Harvest event is going to go out today and the patch is going to drop at 3 PM PST as it always does, but there's a bunch of changes over here that are quite important, both in terms of nerfs to a very strong Amara build as well as some changes to the melee one raid to make it more accessible to solo play. But going over the more important changes over here, we have addressed a reported issue where the movement speed bonus with Amara's passive ability Mindfulness, when buffed with Spiritual Driver class mod, was sometimes extremely high. Mindfulness was designed with the intent that reaching maximum stacks was not easily achievable, so that the bonus per grade was high. We want players to take advantage of movement speed, but not to the extent where parts of the game may not function correctly. So this was basically the bread and butter of the Amara recursion build, which I also showcased here on my channel. If we can't get the mindfulness stacks, or if we can't get the bonuses as we used to before, which seems to be the case, then most probably we're not gonna get that high speed, neither the bonus damage. And by just skimming the patch notes over here, it seems that there's several changes to the Spiritual Driver as well. So the class mod is not going to be as powerful as it was before, but honestly it was quite overpowered with this build and it was making things a little bit too easy. There's this second change over here also to the Spiritual Driver, addressed a reported issue with the class mod where it sometimes awarded damage for all types of damage, not just for gun damage, and this is basically for the percentage 50% elemental damage that should normally only be applied to weapons, but for some reason it was applying it to all of the attacks, which is like where most of the damage came from. So you could stack electric damage, corrosive damage from all of these anointed sources, and it was absolutely insane. So it might not still fully nerf the entire build because the recursion is still the main damage dealer, but it remains to be seen exactly how mindfulness will work after this. They also seem to have made Flak's jabber pad a little bit less annoying by making it less vocal, so they decreased the pad's audio, which sounds really awesome because it was really getting on my nerves. There's also a couple of fixes for Zane's passive abilities, including the Death Follows Close that failed to bring correct bonus to several kill skills after unlocking the ability in the skill menu, and another one for Nerves of Steel that would sometimes lose functionality after fast traveling. Anyway, on a final note, I was talking about the melee one takedown being made a little bit more solo friendly, so it seems that at the end of the month there's going to be an event that will scale the melee one black site depending on the number of players in the party, so you're also going to be able to solo it or complete it with a party of any size, not just the maximum of 4, and get that sweet takedown loot. So it definitely sounds nice, especially since Mayhem 4 melee one takedown is pretty unforgiving. I mean, you can get destroyed over there so easily and the enemies are absolutely crazy. So all of this sounds really awesome. Again, the Moxie DLC is going to drop on December 19. 2 more weeks until that happens. In the meantime, let me know down below what's your opinion on all of these changes as well as on the gameplay. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, as always, don't forget to subscribe and activate the notification bell. bell. Thanks so much for watching and peace.